of positive, uplifting music of different genres, mainly roots reggae. We also feature poetry, speeches, artist interviews, and so much more. That's Free Your Mind with Papa Wabe, Thursday mornings, 2 to 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on WPFW 89.3 FM, making it a better world, one broadcast at a time. Free your mind!
To turn it around.
Come on, clap your hands with us and let's praise God. I've got a job, and we want you to know that all of God's children surely. We've got a job to do. We can't get freedom till we get through carrying the cross. Oh, I've got a job, and we want you to know that all of God's children surely we've got a job to do. We can't get freedom till we get through carrying the cross. I've got a job, and we want you to know.
Okay, welcome to Heal DC. This is Joni, and I'm thrilled that my dear friend Chuck Hicks is joining us today. Good morning,
Joni.
Chuck.
Morning, Joni.
Yes, good morning. Back from Louisiana. And we are going to be having another 2-hour show, so we will be with you till 12 noon. For much of the 2 hours, we're going to be talking about, we're going to be going back in history, but this history is going to be giving us inspiration and information for today. Most of the show will be talking about reflections from Birmingham to Sandy Spring, Maryland. Juneteenth reflections from Birmingham to Sandy Spring, Maryland, and we'll introduce our guests in a moment. At the end of the second hour, which is about 11:20, and the 11 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking about, no surprise, war. So we're going to be having Medea Benjamin and others discussing what is up and what we can do to bring peace, not only to this country, but to the world. So with that said, I'm thrilled to introduce I'm going to call them our co-hosts, two co-hosts for today. Well, let's start with Pam. Pam Rogers, who's been a long time partner with us here in To Heal DC, has put together this very exciting discussion and very exciting program that's happening this coming Sunday and more. So, Pam, welcome and introduce not only you, but Camila and Diane, and give us a summary of what we're going to be hearing about in the next hour and a half.
Well, yes, thank you so much, Joni. It's wonderful to be back on PFW. Just exciting to be sharing with you again. So I'm involved in this really fabulous exhibit at the Sandy Spring Museum, and I just wanted to bring all of that and also our connection with the Birmingham struggle, and just bring that to everybody's mind as we're celebrating Juneteenth. So I want to introduce.
Wait, before you go into introduce, a lot of people don't know what you mean by the Birmingham struggle.
So Birmingham, Alabama was a major milestone in the civil rights struggle. Actually, that was one of our very first successes, where we were able to We filled up the jails with the children and turned things around in Birmingham. And Birmingham was considered the most segregated city in the United States. And it was really, very oppressive for the Black population there. So as part of some of the songs and of struggle that really moved the movement came out of the events that happened in Birmingham. And
so give us an idea, Pam, of the time, of the date, of the years. What year are we talking about, more or less? The early 60s?
Oh, yeah, in the 60s.
Okay, early 1960s. So this is a very historic discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's definitely history we're talking about here. And we have Carolyn Shuttlesworth, who is going to really, take us into the depth of that. She is a witness to the history. So,
yes, and share. We're in very frightening times right now, facing a possible World War III. Why is this topic, what you're going to be discussing, not only important in general, but perhaps inspiring to give us hope?
Well, this was the struggle of the people. I mean, we were oppressed, and it was organized by Fred Shuttlesworth there, and it was a monumental accomplishment, but somehow it was accomplished, and we have, to show. We just want to review that history to let people know that we can overcome. We can come back to some semblance of reality, peace, moving forward. And this is just an example of what we had to go through, but we at the end we did accomplish integration. A lot in Birmingham, a lot. And I don't want to steal the thunder of Carolyn Shuttlesworth.
Okay, so let's keep moving because we have.
But I wanted to talk about but we have an exhibit at the Sandy Spring Museum and this is related to it. So that's why I wanted to be sure to bring in, an example of how we have to carry on our history and how that's an example of why we save things, why we make things, why we keep the songs alive.
Okay, so you want to introduce Camila and Diane Green real briefly?
Yes. So my co-conspirators, I'm going to call them in this exhibit. Our curator is Camilla Rice Laporte, and then the coordinator for the project is Diane Green. So Camilla, you want to say hello?
Yes. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. So
great. Joni, the name of the exhibition is As Long as I Have Breath in My Body. It was based on something that Ben Chavis and his mother, is an expression that Ben Chavis and his mother used when he was wrongly incarcerated. He was one of the Wilmington 10. And his mother said in an interview with Bernice Reagan, said, as long as I have breath in my body, she would continue the struggle to free her son. And her son said, as long as I have breath in my body, I will work to unify our people. So it sounded, Bernice Reagan composed a song.
Okay, so many people do not know who Bernice Reagan was.
Bernice Reagan was she's a cultural historian. She's a musician. She was a founding member of the Freedom Singers. For SNCC's Freedom Singer. She's a founding member of Sweet Honey on the Rock, and also In Process, the group that Pam sings with. She's all about when she was a young person in college, realized that singing, the music of her church, was a good way to rally people and bring them together. And this group In Process she brought this group together to bring women of the movement who had their own issues, to bring women from different walks of life together. So our exhibition brings together the women of In Process. We tell it's their 45th anniversary. We're celebrating their 45th anniversary, but it's featuring the works of the Village of African American Doll and Puppet Artists, of which I'm a part. As an informal collective of doll and puppet and textile artists, we bring our history to life, and we're preserving one of the oldest forms of artistry brought here by Africans, and it's been sustained. It has been uninterrupted.
Okay, so I believe we have someone from the Sandy Spring Museum, Allison Weiss.
Joni, before we start with Allison, who has something important to say, Diane Green wanted to talk about why this is a legacy project.
Yes, when trying to come up with a term to express the depth, the breadth, and importance of the project to younger people, I came up with the term legacy project. And a legacy project is just that. It's the contributions of a generation of people to the art, social justice, and community enlivenment of a generation of folks who grew up between the world wars and the civil rights movement and the movement for social justice. So it's really critical that people come out and join us next weekend for the concluding set of activities that amplify this legacy project. And I'm going to get off because I think it's really important that to keep the continuity that we hear from Dr. Shuttlesworth.
Wait. Now, keep in mind when you say there's going to be this event, tell people where the event is and what time. All that kind of information.
So on June the 29th, we're having a big read program. This was an NEA funded program. The funding went to Sandy Springs, who you'll hear from Allison Weiss. And in this program, the program is called the Birmingham Children's Crusade. It's based on the work not only of Carolyn Shuttlesworth's experience, but it is based on Schroeder Cherry's puppet show, the Civil Rights Children's Crusade. But the person who's going to speak next, Allison Weiss of the Sandy Spring Museum, it fits with their mission. We are so proud and happy to be a partner with them. They're the ones that recognize that the music and the art did go together. And for some people, it was a strange concept, but she got it. And it's the mission of this project to make sure that social justice is not something that is an anomaly. Social justice, everything we do is about moving this country forward. It's always been that way historically. I'm giving the floor to Allison.
Welcome, Allison.
Thank you, Joni. Thank you, Camilla, for that introduction. So the museum works with community groups that want to tell their own story. We provide the platform and we will support groups to bring their vision to life, but we never tell anybody what to do and we don't speak on behalf of anybody else.
Right. So what made you think this was going to work, Allison?
Well, I do love the idea of combining music with the art. To me, that makes total sense because that's how humans communicate with one another. They do it through many different art forms. So when you came to us with that idea, we just trusted that you knew the story and you knew the art better than we did. And we just wanted to support you in making that come to life.
And I just also want to mention that the museum is in the historic area, and in a historic area that was underground railroads, where the underground railroad stops were, and also it's a traditional black farmers. A lot of black farmers were from that area, so it's one of our very this really grounded in our culture in Sandy Spring. So.
And for people like me who have no idea where this museum is, how can they find out the information? How to find you?
Sure. Sandy Springs, about 12 miles north of the DC borderline. If you go up New Hampshire Avenue, you will run into it. So you can also look at our website, which is sandyspringmuseum.org.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Schroeder Cherry is on next, I believe, Joni.
Yes.
Schroeder, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All
So
right.
I'm
Well,
excited.
Thank you all. I am the puppeteer who's going to be performing the show called Civil Rights Children's Crusade. And this is a show that was inspired by young people who were an important part of the civil rights movement. I wanted to do a show that highlighted children because we often don't hear about kids when we talk about history. And the Civil Rights Children's Crusade was instrumental because this was a pivotal moment when the civil rights movement needed attention. It was kind of sputtering out. And someone came up with the idea of letting children learn how to protest nonviolently and fill up the jails. Now, not everybody was comfortable with children going to jail, but Reverend Shuttlesworth was the one who said, you got to use what you got. So they trained these kids to protest nonviolently. And that was what actually got not only national, but international attention for the civil rights movement, because kids were shown on television, they were covered by newspapers, and they were covered by radio. The word got around, and folks were looking on television and seeing kids being confronted with things like attack dogs, police with batons, and the fire department with fire hoses. So the puppet show is narrated by a puppet. He's a teenager, basically. And not to give too much away, but this is a teenager who has a very strict grandfather. He's always on his case, and he wants to know what his grandfather was like as a little kid. He stumbles across a newspaper article from 1963 that says Negro children go to jail. There's a big photograph of children who are in jail behind bars, and he recognizes his grandfather. So he says, wow, I got to find out what that was about. My grandfather was in jail as a kid. What did he do? And as the story unfolds, the puppet is narrating the story, and he's manipulating other puppets to tell the story of how the children were instrumental in the civil rights movement.
Wow. And I'm going to ask Chuck. Chuck is from Louisiana and was very much involved in the movement, as his whole family was. And Chuck, if you want to ask a question to this puppeteer, Dr. Schroeder Cherry, jump right in.
Hi, Schroeder.
Hi.
I guess my question was, how did they convince young people that they needed to be in this march?
They were working with the young man who worked with youth in the church. He and his wife were both youth ministers in the church, and they started with the popular kids first because they thought if they could get the popular kids to join in, they would be very effective in terms of getting other kids. So once they started training in the afternoon, and the puppet show gets across the fact how serious this actually was, because to protest nonviolently meant that you could not fight back. So DeAndre emphasizes the fact that if somebody hit you or threw a rock at you or spit on you, you could not fight back. That needs to sink in, because that's really, I think, very important in what these kids were learning to do. And also there was a radio show, there was a radio host who got on the radio the day before and said, children, there's going to be a party in the park tomorrow, 12 o'clock noon. And everybody knew that was code for gathering in the church to get ready to protest nonviolently. And kids, the word spread around so quickly that kids came from all over Alabama, from Birmingham, and then later from other counties. So he emphasizes that in the story as well. But it was a well-organized event. So to answer your question, it was organized by youth workers in the church.
Wow. And this was what year?
1963.
1963. And this
and John, one of the connection with that is that the same thing that people who were older, who did sit down and demonstrations were the same methods that the young people had to learn. So there was no difference in terms of what they learned. They were different in ages, but the young people who were older people who were demonstrating in Woolworth and the stores and down the street, they went through the same training. If they got spit on, if they got cursed at, they got water thrown on, they couldn't respond back. So it was the same lesson for them as for children. That was the connection. Important connection.
They were using the same strategies.
So I think Carolyn, Dr. Carolyn, are you here?
No, we're not ready for you.
We're not ready for her yet? Okay.
No way. So
okay, but Joni, one of the things.
Okay, I want you to say again, what time is this puppet show going to be? It's going to happen on Sunday?
It'll happen on Sunday. It goes on at 1:00. Please be prompt because this is not a long show. So if you show up 30 minutes late, you're going to miss the show.
Okay, so then again, that's at the repeat again.
Sandy Spring Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Sandy Spring Museum, and we'll be on. There'll be a number of things going on that day because there'll be other performances. There'll be singing going on in another space. The puppets will be performing in one of the main galleries, and also we'll be surrounded by the exhibition of puppets and dolls. So there'll be a lot going on that day.
So again,
address for the museum.
I'm getting it for you now.
And the time again. What time is it on Sunday?
The puppet show begins at 1:00.
But the whole thing.
1 to 4. It's 1 to 4 o'clock.
On Sunday. We'll repeat the location again later. We have a quick song, and Mikey, if you could play a minute of this song, "Freedom Gonna Rain."
Sandy.
Yes, this is Joni and Chuck. You're listening to Heal DC on WPFW Radio, and we are spending this hour, really almost an hour and a half, talking about a very special event happening this Sunday at the Sandy Spring Museum. And we have an extremely special guest coming up who'll be talking with us until the top of the hour, Dr. Carolyn Shuttleworth. And Pam, would you like to introduce her? And maybe Chuck, and we're going to talk about her dad, among other things. So Pam, please introduce Dr. Shuttleworth.
Okay, so Dr. Carolyn Shuttleworth is a part of our exhibit because she was a member of In Process for some time and as part of our recordings. And she's also just a wonderful historian and a great speaker. So she is the daughter of Reverend Fred Shuttleworth, who was the prime organizer of the Birmingham Civil Rights Movement. And so I just am proud to know her. And she's just such a dynamic person. And she's been through so much. And I really call her an eyewitness to history because she was there in Birmingham. And she can really tell her story much better than I can. But, you know, she's just a dynamic person, and the experience is something that she's carrying forth. She's making sure that everybody's aware that the struggle for freedom continues. And she's actually teaches at Montgomery College at the moment. So,
great. And let me just again remind people, when Pam refers to In Process, that is an Acapella women's group, singers, that is celebrating their 45th anniversary throughout this year. And that's this celebration, this event on Sunday is part of In Process's 45th anniversary celebrations. So, and with that said, we're very honored and happy to bring on Dr. Carolyn Shuttlesworth. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here in the progressive arena of PFW.
Thank you.
I'm so excited this morning that I'm joined by two people who are of the Birmingham struggle with the miracle of Zoom coming from Birmingham this morning. Valencia Reese McCurdy, daughter of Carlton Reese, who you heard in his song, We've Got a Job and Freedom's Gonna Reign. And so I'm going to ask her in a moment to speak about her father and turn on her mic. And one of the successes, as Pam said, Birmingham was a success. We have Annette Nunn, the first female Black police chief in Birmingham, and she can tell us of how her struggle there. So good morning to Annette.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Please, Dr. Shuttlesworth, tell us about your father, because I can tell you, I'm sure the majority of listeners do not know about Fred, certainly the younger people. So please take your time and tell us who your father was, what role he played in the movement, and why it's so important for people to know about him today in 2025.
Okay. Can I lead you to a documentary that you can Google, PBS Shuttlesworth? That came out 2 years ago. So if you Google PBS Shuttlesworth, you'll be able to hear the Birmingham story from many of those who participated in, and see Reverend Fred, as I call him, a fiery fireball who believed in victory. And you can hear by the music, We've Got a Job, that the people believed with him and therefore were able to make a commitment. The movement began in 1956 in Birmingham when Daddy founded the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, Alabama, where it was Christian because Christian groups did not have to give the names of their members. So it was a tactical move. And it was a movement because it was action oriented. And as Mr. Hicks said, everyone had to sign a pledge agreeing to the terms. No violence. Even if you were violent against, you did not respond. And human rights. That's the ongoing thing, because right now, that's what we're struggling for. Yeah. Simple human rights. Yeah. So Daddy was very prescient in what he did and how he worked. But it was the people with him who came together, who watched our house when he was gone, the 3 times that people tried to bomb it. In 1956, the bombing was successful, but there were other attempts that were thwarted by the movement members who were guarding our family and pulling together. And after that bombing, in fact, the direct action event took place, riding the buses, because Daddy would not be deterred from what he planned to do. So every Monday night in Birmingham from 56 on for I don't know how long, there was a movement meeting and there was singing. And Carlton Reese was the genius who was bringing together all that music. And so Valencia Reese McCurdy, can you talk about...
Wait. I'm sorry, Carolyn. I want a few more minutes about your dad, and then we'll bring in... Chuck, I don't know if you'd like to say anything about Fred Shuttlesworth, but again, listeners, he was a giant in the movement.
One of the things that I find most interesting about Daddy that's not well known is that he had the most cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. He had 9 cases in which he was a litigant before the U.S. Supreme Court, and so he holds the record for that. He did receive a presidential award from Clinton as he was leaving office, and he has been honored near and far with honorary doctorates and what have you. But it's the love of the people that is essential.
And was he one of the founders of SCLC?
Of SCLC, yes, SCLC.
So please spend a minute, because a lot of people... Remember, we have a lot of young people. We do have young people listening, as well as some older people who have not heard about these things. I meet them every day. So
yes, you're right, Joni. You're
tell them
absolutely right.
So tell people what SCLC was, or maybe still is, and why your dad was so committed to it, as he was one of the founders.
Yes, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, brought together people from the southwest region of the country to do direct action to challenge segregation. And I say it was a success because there are no more colored white signs anymore. We have with us people who have achieved the highest rank. So their organization and the organizing was intense. It wasn't just let's hop up and demonstrate. It was let's figure out what is the most strategic way to bring about this. So King, Abernathy, C.T. Vivian, and my father and others worked together and planned how to bring forth a new society that we have today that we're still trying to make better.
Yes, and just for listeners, you know, what Carolyn is really talking about, and what we're talking about, is organizing. We do not talk enough these days about how do you really organize the people. It's one thing to want freedom and to want a whole new society, but it needs to be very carefully planned with dedicated organizers, such as Chuck Hicks, such as Chuck Hicks' dad, such as people actually in my family, but especially we're talking about now Fred Shuttlesworth. So the organizing that he did is really historic. And so I just wanted to really emphasize that we're honored to have you on here, Dr. Carolyn Shuttlesworth. So take it away from here. Who did you want to introduce next?
Could you talk about your father and unmute your mic?
Yes, ma'am. I'm Valencia Reese McCurdy from Birmingham, Alabama, and I'm here to talk about my father, Carlton Reese, who was brought to the movement by Reverend Shuttlesworth as well, and Mamie Brown Mason and Nims Bogay, brought to the movement as a teenager. He was a musician at a church, known for his musicianship at a church, and he would attend the mass meetings at that time. And then they asked him to become the musician of the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights Choir, who the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights was definitely under Reverend Shuttlesworth. He would actually direct the choir and write music for the choir. Such persons would be speaking or giving sermons, such as Reverend Shuttlesworth, Dr. King, Ralph Abernathy, the Woods brothers, Calvin Woods, Abraham Woods, would be giving the sermons during that time, or giving the information out for them to get ready to go into the streets. When you speak about organization, the organization started in the churches. Well, during that time, he wrote the music as it relates to the movement to inspire people to get into the streets to fight for our freedom. The song that you heard in the beginning was I've Got a Job to Do. They definitely had a job to do to get their freedom. And it was written in the jail on toilet paper during that time. That's the story that I get from the Reverend Calvin Woods, who was on the top bunk when he was on the bottom bunk. Songs such as Freedom is Just Ahead, Freedom Shall Be Mine, Freedom's Gonna Rain, Oh Freedom, Yes, We Want Our Freedom, Demand It Now, and We're Marching On to Freedom Land. He was a student out at Miles College. If you've heard of Miles College in Birmingham, Alabama, he was an 18-year-old freshman when he was writing this music. And he was also jailed and was not able, once he graduated, to get a job in Birmingham, and had to go somewhere else and get a job to eventually that he received a job because he had a jail record at that time.
And the Alabama Christian Movement changed its name later to the Carlton Reese Memorial Choir in honor of his brilliance and his dedication and his sacrifice.
Yes, ma'am. He organized the Martin Luther King Unity Breakfast Choir, and in combination was the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights Choir. We have original members such as Dr. Eloise Gaffney, Cleo Kennedy, Mary Turner. Those are original members that actually sing with us today, in conjunction with the Unity Breakfast members and other members throughout the city who tried to carry on the legacy of the music. We're actually in the right now experiencing quite a few things right now that occurred during the 60s with this administration at this time. So the music is very relevant, and we're just carrying out the history and the music at this particular time. Yes.
And we're thankful that you are. Chuck, jump in if you like. I don't know if you, Chuck, want to comment too about the importance of music in the movement of the 60s, but, also right today.
I think always that music has played an important role for all of us in the struggle, even for young people, for older people, for anybody involved in the struggle. And one of the things that music did, it did a couple of things. One, when we were in the churches at a rally, it inspired us. It gave us a new a new pair of feet to get ready to march. And once we were out on the street marching, oftentimes when we were singing those songs, it shielded what we couldn't hear, the kinds of things that would be calling us, because the music acted as a shield and an inspiration for us. So we just kept marching and singing, and half the things they were saying we couldn't even hear because we were so busy singing and marching. So music has always been an absolutely important part. My question is some of this music still available? If someone wanted to get it and listen to it, how could that be achieved? How could you get copies of some of the songs that he wrote?
Yes, the music is available as of right now. We have just released a new CD with the original music on there, and I'm going to let somebody else talk about that. But one song I did want to mention is "Can't You See Your Freedom Coming?" That song is a dedication to the Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth. It says, "Can't you see your freedom coming? God sent Fred Shuttlesworth, Dr. King, and Abernathy to Birmingham to fight for our freedom." That's what that particular song says. It is not on the CD, but several of the others are on the CD. And but like I said, it's a dedication to Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth. I see some more members on, Chief Nunn and Alicia Andrews. They may want to speak about our CD, our new CD release, because they are in charge of that at this particular moment and how you can get it. Ms. Andrews, Anetta Nine.
Yeah, Chief Nunn, will you unmute yourself so you can talk to us? As she does so, let me say that she's one of our successes, for she became the first Black female police chief in Birmingham.
Good morning to everyone.
Welcome.
And thank you so much. Thanks to Dr. Shuttlesworth for inviting me to be a part of this Zoom call. As she said, I, along with many others, we are the successes of those who paved the way for us. As I've mentioned, to listen to some of your callers talk about legacy and our young people. That's one of the messages of the choir that when we speak at schools, perform one of our programs called Songs and Stories. As we do the information, give these songs, we talk about the reason behind the songs and how our young people can benefit from it today. Reverend Shuttlesworth, I had the honor of meeting him personally several times and to thank him. But one of his platforms during the 60s, and I must say that when this choir was formed in 1959, I was only a year old, so I wasn't marching. I am a beneficiary. But one of his platforms was to have Black police officers to patrol Black neighborhoods, because Birmingham did not hire its first Black officer until 1966. Leroy Stover, who passed away a couple of years ago. So I am one of the beneficiaries, and I had the chance to thank him for that. Coming in under consent decree, because the city of Birmingham was sued to allow Black police officers to join the force. And I think after the consent decree was entered, I was probably in the second class of officers that came through. There were a few Black officers already on the force, but the majority joined after that consent decree that resulted from a lawsuit that was brought against the city of Birmingham, not only the city of Birmingham, but our entire county, which some parts of the county was just released from that consent decree about a couple of years ago. So although many things have changed, some things remain the same.
Well, they certainly do remain the same. In some ways, things are getting worse at the moment. But tell us, was it Valencia who asked the question, how can people get access to the music we've been talking about?
Oh, Alicia, are you on here? Because we do have two members that any inquirers will be directed. And if it's that information is not available, if it's not online yet, it's actually physical copies, so they would have to be mailed to an individual.
Okay, and will there be some of these songs be sung on Sunday?
Yes, we will have the CD, and we'll have information on how you can order it on Sunday for sure. Alicia, can you unmute and give that information now?
And also, we in process will be singing a couple of songs from the CD on Sunday because it's in our repertoire. So we'll be doing that as well.
Oh.
Okay.
And also been informed that Dr. Eloise Gaffney is also on the Zoom call. Now she's the current director of the Carlton Reese Memorial Unity Choir, but in 1963 she was the youngest member of the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights Choir. She was 13 years old at the time, so she is also on the Zoom call.
Are you on, Miss Gaffney? I don't see you on the list. I'm not sure she's on, Miss Nunn.
Okay, so who wants to
Yes,
jump
I'm
in?
on. This is Eloise Gaffney. I am on.
Can we hear from you, please?
You may. Thank you for this opportunity. Yes, I am a jailbird. I actually worked in the civil rights movement during the 60s with Dr. Shuttlesworth, Abernathy, King, and the young people that organized the youth crusade, Reverend James Bevel, Harold Middlebrook. Oh, the list goes on and on. But I heard you talking about organization. The movement was very, very organized. And I had a chance to work, hand in hand with Harold Middlebrook and James Bevel, Reverend Andy Young, and these guys that came and organized the youth. I tell everybody, you cannot beat us for organization.
You were 13. Were you afraid?
Indeed. No, I think we were so young we didn't realize the dangers. Yes, indeed. But I worked with the voter registration in Birmingham, and that was before the the voter registration bill was passed. So we had to actually go into the communities and teach the Constitution of the United States to seniors, because that was one of the tactics to keep Black people from voting. So a lot of them would pass and a lot of them would not pass, but we never stopped the fight. We continued to try to teach because it was really that important to us. So after many years, then the Voting Rights Act was passed.
So you're the director of the choir now.
I am.
Continue to get new songs, or do you totally use Mr. Reese's songs?
We are still doing the songs from the movement. That's our objective. We want to make sure that the word never dies. Try to educate the young people to let them know that things didn't just happen. There were people that suffered. There were people that died. And I heard someone say that the music was the inspiration. Yes, we would bring the energy. And Reverend Shuttlesworth always said that we would sing, inspire, and sing the people out of their seats and into the streets. So, yes, we played a vital role in the movement. We're still singing to this day. And the project very soon will be at the Civil Rights Institute in Birmingham. As Chief said, I still call her Chief Nunn. We have them, individual choir members have them for sale, but on a larger scale, we'll have them at the Civil Rights Institute.
Well, Ms. Gaffney, can you tell how people in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere can get the CD?
We'll have to work on that. And I think, it's just been released in the last few weeks. So we're still working on those things. And if you all have an avenue, we would love to have it so that we can pass it on.
Yes, I would like to talk to you about that. So there's definitely a way y'all can put that online and get it out to people.
We are a radio station that reaches thousands of people, so we would.
Wow, that's wonderful.
We would love to have access to that music.
Wonderful.
We could share it with the station. So, again, I wonder what you all think, and maybe Carolyn Shuttlesworth can comment on this. I do go to a lot of marches, a lot of rallies. We do have some singers out there, again, part of our station. The and Pam is part of it too. The Great Labor Arts Exchange and the DC Labor Chorus, and some of the people who sing come on this show. But from my perspective, I don't think we have enough singing these days in the rallies and in the marches.
Girls,
yeah, we need to bring music back to the rallies.
Yes, so that's
we need to do that.
Music is so essential to me. It's like the way I calm myself. It's the way I express my enjoyment. It's the way I get through the day. So it's like part of me. My mother named me Carolyn, and she sang all the time. Reverend Fred thought he was a singer, and he sang all the time. Did he not, Miss Daphne?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you all a challenge, because I've been talking to Pam. It would be wonderful if we could have a project to really involve some of the young people right here in DC, to meet with you and learn about this music, because I'm telling you, they do not know a lot of what you're speaking about.
I can speak for the Birmingham people. They're ready to move. I called them this morning at 7:30, and they're here now. So they're ready to move and to bring their message to you.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. But we have we do have young people in DC who are activists, but it's be good to bring the generations together musically. Would be a great thing. So we have a few more minutes in this hour. Carolyn Shuttlesworth, I don't know if you'd like to say anything about your dad when he moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. And again, in Cincinnati, we have quite a number of our listeners from Cincinnati, including someone some of us call the godfather of WPFW, Tom Porter. But anything you'd like to share about when your dad left Birmingham and went to Ohio, or anything else you'd like to say?
Tom Porter, of course, is a great supporter and a great friend. In 1961, a dad moved the family to Cincinnati because my mother insisted that her children be able to get an education. She had 4 children, 3 ready for college. And so he moved. But every Monday night, he was back in Birmingham at the movement meetings, continuing the struggle. He would preach on Sunday, get on the plane in the afternoon, and go back to Birmingham. So he continued to be involved in Birmingham and struggling in Birmingham. And you see the fruits of his labor everywhere in Birmingham. When you fly into the Birmingham International Airport, it's named the Birmingham Shuttlesworth International Airport. And there's a photographic exhibit in the bottom floor of the terminal giving the highlights of his life and the many things he did, and including a voice-over recording and video of him speaking. The Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, of course, is on the National History Assemblies, and it has a statue of him in front and continues to bear the imprint of much of the things that he cared about. For Daddy was a hands-on person, and he believed in giving the people things to uplift them. He believed in having free events so people could come. And again, as I said, Miss Gaffney, you have the most to say because you were boots on the ground. So could you kind of continue?
Wait, let me see if I can. Okay.
Okay, wait.
Can you hear me?
Let me just ask our engineer, Mike, do we need to take a break at 10:55 or do we keep going? You can let us know. I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
All right, I was making sure that I'm unmuted. I really can't say enough about the music from the movement. You can always hear us every September 15th, the celebration of the girls' bombing. And I must inject this: Carol Robertson and Cynthia Wesley, two of the girls killed in the bombing, were my dear friends and classmates. So every year on September 15th, no matter what day it is, the Carlton Reese Memorial Unity Choir go to celebrate with 16th Street Baptist Church the memory of those four girls. And it was two young men that were killed later on September 15th. So yes, we let that music, we're keeping the music alive. That is our objective. And we just are so excited about this opportunity to share on a broader scale. And we just thank you all. Just listen for the Carlton Reese Memorial Unity Choir. There are some songs that might be on the website. So listen for the Carlton Reese Memorial Unity Choir.
And when you speak about the website, please repeat what website you're speaking about.
Chief, is that on?
Okay.
Listed? I'll have to ask her.
Okay. Let me just say about the girls who were killed September 15th, 1963. And again, 1963, of course, a lot went on. Medgar Evers was assassinated on June 12th, 1963. And then we, of course, had the March on Washington in August. And then those girls were killed. We did have, I think, the surviving young lady. I don't remember her name, but there was one surviving girl. We had her visit us.
Her name is Sarah Collins.
Yes, Sarah Collins. We had her come to the station. I'd like to give a shout out to our ancestor, Damu Smith, who we had a very special gathering with her. So I'm glad you're reminding people or letting people know about those girls, four girls who were killed September 15th, 1963. Chuck, did you want to jump in? Anything else you would like to share about Fred Shuttlesworth? I don't know if your dad worked with him or you met him, or anything else you'd like to say?
Of course, we knew of him. He was a lightning rod that was mentioned, I think, throughout the South almost as regular as often as Dr. King, for people who were in the movement, because he was such an inspiring person. He was also a hands-on person. He did whatever he asked you to do, he did also. That was one of the things my dad had the philosophy about, that if I can't do it, if I can ask you to do it, then I should be able to do it also. I don't want to lead by giving orders. I lead by example. And I think it's so important that many of the people in the civil rights movement who were in leadership positions, many of them led by example. They did not send you to march, they went and march with you. And I think that was that was very important.
Yes, absolutely.
People who gave the orders, but they didn't do what they asked you to do. And so it becomes important. And many of the people like Dr. Shaw were wonderful examples for young people, because and older people too, because you were out there doing it. So they could see if he can ask for you to do it, he's doing it too, so it becomes an inspiration. I think this has been an inspiration to me in terms of hearing some of the things that have brought memories back to me in terms of what the movement was like in other parts of the country. And so this is, and I hope all the people who are listening will get a chance to see the exhibit. And at some point, we can always replay this show. So we'll tell people who didn't hear it or want to hear it again how they can do that. And Pam, I'll get my copy of the thing.
Yes. And we are going to, excuse me, we have to take a break at 10:55. So I just wanted to mention, Chuck, people who don't remember or know who your dad was, just in one sentence.
My dad was Robert Bob Hicks, who was founder of the Deacons for Defense, the first chapter in the Civil Rights Movement. And if you go to the museum, of course, my dad is in the Museum of African American History and Culture. My dad's shotgun is dead, and HBO did a movie called The Deacons for Defense with Forrest Whitaker and Otis Davis, and Forrest Whitaker plays my dad.
Yeah. Okay.
I look forward to seeing everybody Sunday at the South Silver Sandy Spring Museum, and I'll be speaking after Schroeder about 3 o'clock.
And Mr. Schroeder has to leave. Did you want to say anything, Mr. Puppeteer, before you have to go?
No, I don't have anything important to say. I just hope that you will join us. And I think you were talking about the address for the museum. That is 17901 Bentley Road, Sandy Spring, Maryland. That's 17901 Bentley Road, Sandy Spring, Maryland. Hope to see you out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we are going to be continuing this discussion into the next hour, 11 o'clock till about 11:20. Then after 11:20, we're going to be talking about this unfortunate, horrific war that's happening. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
I'm on my way to freedom land. I'm on my way to freedom land. I'm on my way to freedom land. Yes. If you don't go, don't hinder me.
And welcome back to Heal DC. This is our second hour, 11 a.m. We're going till just about 12 noon. We're going to be continuing our discussion with the Acapella group In Process, celebrating their 45th anniversary with a very special event this coming Sunday. And we're going to jump right back to Pam Rogers, who's going to introduce our next guest. But I want to also say that 11:20 to the end of the show, we're going to be talking about this war in Iran with Medea Benjamin and some other folks. So stay tuned as we get back to 2025, June. What is it? What's today's date? June 23rd, 2025. So Pam Rogers, reintroduce what we're going to be hearing for the next few minutes about your event on Sunday.
Yes. So we have an event at the Sandy Spring Museum that's celebrating our exhibit, As Long as I Have Breath in My Body, and the 45th anniversary of In Process, in collaboration with the African American doll and puppet artist. So we are going to be doing, and so our this show is really about Birmingham to Sandy Spring, because our music, part of the mission of In Process has been to preserve the music of the civil rights movement. And we have certainly sung the freedom songs that were made popular by the Freedom Singers and the SNCC Singers. And also Carlton Reese music from Birmingham is in our repertoire. So we just, want people to come out to see this puppet show. That's the story of the Birmingham movement, the Children's March, and also to hear the music. And yes.
Can I ask Pam to do two things? Can you tell us how we can keep in touch with In Process?
Yeah, In Process, yes. And if you need any information on any of this, it's on our website, inprocess.org. So please.
And Pam's going to do a recap of everything at the end. But let's jump right into the next guest, Julie Dickerson.
Right. I was going to Camilla. Camilla, can you
because we're
talk about that? So we don't get behind.
Julie Dickerson Thompson, the anniversary.
This is also the 45th anniversary of Brown Spice Dolls. It was one of the earliest Black African-American doll collections started by our own Julie Dickerson Thompson and her mother, Annie Dickerson. And so Julie has a long history here in Washington, D.C. She's a Washingtonian, and she has brought this art form to hundreds of young people in the city. I'm going to let her take over so we have a special day, July the 20th. It is the reunion of the Brown Spice Elves. Julie and her elves I think the oldest elves are now in their 50s. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, hi, I'm Julie Dickerson Thompson. My mother and I founded the Brown Spice Dolls and Dudes in 1979. And by the early 80s, we were rolling into reunions. Would bring back their dolls and dudes of the African diaspora, the Little Brown Brothers Rock and Reggae Demolition Band, and the hostesses with the mostesses were just making it very magical in that day and time. And we continued on to what became the Young Masters program, where we took these young doll and dude collectors and put them in classes. And then they got so good at learning the classes and taking the classes that we thought it would be really powerful to have them teach. And so at the tender ages of 6 years old all the way up to 14, they not only joined professional artists and folk artists in teaching classes, but the program was begun and continues to this day, 38 years later. So the Young Masters and the Brown Spices will be closing the show, this wonderful show about with my last breath, on July 20th. And we are so fortunate as to have in process, in collaboration with us, where we can actually do the passing of the baton with All for Freedom songs, is what we're hoping. As the Young Masters have celebrated Sweet Honey in the Rock for many years, and some of the members of In Process have been parts of the Young Masters and of the Brown Spice traditions. It will be a very exciting day when all things come together. I must say before I finish up that I was so inspired by the speakers and by this experience to be around my sheroes and heroes, super people of the civil rights movement. And a lot of times people are saying, oh, we were better off before. Well, let them go back to those days, because honestly, I'm a recipient of the work. And as I told the preacher in church who was praying for the troops, bravery is facing a gun with the Bible. That's what faith really is. You know, anybody can face a gun with another gun, but these are my heroes and sheroes. And we try to teach our young masters to fight their battles with art.
Can I just jump in and ask you this question, Ms. Thompson? I'm a great fan of dolls, as many of I'm sure the ladies and sisters are out there. But tell the listeners how dolls have played a really important role in telling these historic stories. It's not just dolls, but you're using the dolls to send a message. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, I'm excited to add the speakers on the day of July 20th. And Francine Haskins, one of our curating artists in the show, has a piece that is always honoring the children of the bombing, of the church bombing. And she will be there to talk about Kurt, who survived the story, who survived the experience, but barely, and never was able to talk after that, and going deeply into his story. The dolls tell so many stories. We have a peace warrior in the show from the Brown Spice collection that moves us forward into where we are now. And her weapons are music, of course, and art, of course, and drumming and all kinds of other things that show us the power of art as they're asking the creatives to save us from the peril that we are in right now with this government. So the dolls, and if you can see the dolls and the puppets in action, you can see the power of the story that cannot be buried as hard as they try, but is illuminated and amplified through these stories of the dolls.
Another person appearing with Julie on this historic reunion is Reverend Yolanda Sampson and her Go-Yo Productions. And her puppets talk about forgiveness, social forgiveness. So she's working with Julie. She'll be opening up the program Pam will be singing, and in process will be singing the songs, but the day is devoted to Julie's great work in the community. And one thing I want to say, Julie and Schroeder are among the very first doll and puppet artists to work as not only creatives, but as teachers and community activists. They came of age during the civil rights movement, and they were, they sunk their teeth beginning even at the Anacostia Museum. So and Julie does something called community activism. She literally brings it to the street. She has something called Bombing the Bridge, where she gets the kids involved. We can't even say that anymore, but Julie, tell them about your...
Okay, and we're running out of time.
Okay,
so,
this is quick, Julie.
Well, we did a project called Peace Wars, teaching them to fight for what they believed in with weapons of nonviolence, i.e. their instruments of art. And in 2001, we blew up the Brookland. If you know Washington, D.C., we blew up the Brookland Bridge with art in an overnight mission. And it happened unexpectedly right after 9/11. So there were so many metaphors and so many lessons that we all learned from that experience. And it continues forward to this day. It was about Black Lives Matter before Black Lives Matter became an issue. But we have continued to work on the bridge as recently as 2022. So that's kind of how we use nonviolence as our art form.
Okay, and we have about 8 minutes left before we shift. So Pam wanted to briefly mention a play that is going to be shown at Arena Stage that is featuring a beautiful song by In Process. So just real quick, Pam, tell us about.
Yes, I just want to mention that one of our local playwrights who I grew up with in DC, she's written several plays that have been at the theaters in DC. Carol Mookman, she's a great playwright, and she's written a play about, it's actually about the wife of Elijah Muhammad, and the work that she did to educate children. She was just a great educator, and so that's the theme of the play. It's a one-woman play, so it's going to be fabulous. But they're going to be using the music of In Process, Women Who Fly, because she was a fabulous woman, and she certainly would fit into the category of one of the women who fly. So you'll hear that song at the end of our segment. But I just wanted to mention it's going to be at the Arena Stage on June 30th and July 1st. So it's called
people can find it
at Heaven's Gate.
Okay.
So
Pam, we have about 5 minutes. We do have 5 minutes left to recap everything you've shared.
Well, it's just been so fabulous. It's been fabulous to have Carolyn Shuttlesworth with us. I mean, Carolyn Shuttlesworth, as well as being a witness to history, was also a member of In Process for many years. So, I got to know her and got to know Reverend Fred, and that was quite an honor as well. So we're so happy that she's going to be Sunday. Talk about the events, right?
Tell us about Sunday again.
Sunday, June 29th. At the Sandy Spring Museum from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We will be doing two things will be presented. First, there will be a puppet show that's appropriate for people age 8 and up about the Birmingham Children's March Crusade, what they did. That's from 1 to 2. Then we're going to have a little light refreshments and chance to be together. And then In Process is going to do songs from the Birmingham movement and other freedom songs. And Carolyn Shuttlesworth is going to be with us to give us some context for that presentation. So we are really excited about that. And you can register for this event by going to the Sandy Spring Museum site. It's sandyspringmuseum.org. So you can register for that. Also, we want to mention that we are going to have there will be the capability to sign up for a guided tour through the exhibit in July. So you will be able to sign up on the Sandy Spring Museum site. So please, if you're interested in that, please go to the site where you can do that as well. Camilla, do you want to speak a little bit more about it?
We have a book also that will be
okay.
something. You want to tell them about that, Pam?
No, you talk about the book.
Okay, so with the program, we are also developing a book, and we'd like you to support it. It is a commemorative book for In Process and for the African American doll and puppet artists. With your support, we not only can support this project, but hopefully in a second printing, support the work of In Process, which continues. Sandy Spring Museum is located once again at 17901 Bentley Road, Sandy Spring, Maryland. It's right off of Sandy Spring Only Roll. And I hope that you all come out and bring your children. That's the point of this show, and the 29th and of the July the 20th, the anniversary for Brown Elves. The Brown Spice Elves reunion is that art is activism, and children are part of this activism. It's their world. So please bring your family out and support what we're trying to do. And Joni, thank you so much for all the support that you have given, for coming out to the events and for allowing us this day.
Well, it's my honor and Chuck's honor too, I'm sure. And I've known In Process since their first a time that they sang publicly 45 years ago, and announced that they were, even before I really knew Pam, I can still envision that first concert. And again, Pam has been very much a part of PFW. So this is, we're all celebrating the 45th anniversary of In Process with Pam and with the In Process folks throughout this year. We are very proud of you bringing music into our hearts and into our movement. So we're going to go out, as was mentioned, with this song, Women Who Fly, which is an In Process
I just want to mention it was written by Michelle Lanchester.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, tell people who Michelle Lanchester, most people don't know who she is.
So Michelle Lanchester was actually a major songwriter. And this is a song, In Process performs a lot of her music. And this is the song that's going to be used as part of the play. It's going to be at Arena Stage. But it's one of our most favorite songs. People love it the best, actually. Women Who Fly.
Okay. Thank you very much, In Process crew. And after we hear this song, we're going to be talking about the war that we're facing and what we can do to bring peace to the world.
Thank you, Joni. Appreciate it.
They come from a tribe that's as old as the earth. To fly was their calling from the moment of birth. Then God gave them wings to soar to the sky. This cold, wicked world they would beautify. Those women who fly, 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 fly. Do 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 do.
You know them when you see them, they are everywhere. They're taking care of business with the greatest care. They set the pace, they set the trend. Their thirst for justice, it never ends. Those
women who fly, 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 fly.
Can you hear me?
Oh, welcome back to Heal DC. For the next remaining of this show, up until a few minutes before 12 noon, we're going to be talking about war, genocide, but what you can do to be telling us about an important rally taking place this Friday. So, Helen, introduce yourself and tell us what's happening.
Hi there, thanks for having me. I am a member of Jewish Voice for Peace in the DC area, and I'm here to represent them and tell you all about a Shabbat ritual and march that we are hosting on Friday, June 27th at 6 p.m. To draw attention to the fact that Israel continues to starve the population of Gaza. And even though we have seen this escalation of Israel and the U.S. in Iran, we can't take our attention away from Gaza, where millions of people are starving. So we are asking folks to come to Columbus Circle outside Union Station at 6 p.m. on Friday, June 27th for this Jewish-led Shabbat ritual and action. We're inviting Jews, non-Jews, people who have been in this movement for Palestinian liberation for a long time, people who are just joining now, to join with us for a Shabbat service and to call for Israel and the U.S. to stop starving Gaza.
And when you say Shabbat service, what does that mean?
Well, it is going to be a religious ritual. I don't have the details myself. I am one of those secular Jews, but we will probably have a rabbi or other religious leader to lead folks in the traditional ritual.
Okay, good. So one more time, repeat when that's happening. Friday?
That is this Friday, June 27th, 6 p.m. At Columbus Circle outside Union Station.
Okay, great. Okay, we are expecting two. Thank you very much, Helen. We're expecting two guests. I know that Medea Benjamin with Code Pink is calling. Maybe Mikey, you could call her, but we're also.
I'm here.
Oh, you
Hello?
are? I don't see you. Great. Okay, we're going to give a big drum roll of applause for Medea Benjamin, who really needs no introduction, but for those of you who don't know her, founder of Code Pink, and she's out there in the streets. Tell us, Medea, what is happening today? For now,
we have quite a large group with us in Congress today. In fact, I was going to put on one of the Iranian Americans who's with us, if you'd like to talk to her, because she's been talking to her family and friends in Iran every day. And we are going from office to office, asking them to sign on to this War Powers Resolution, which says that Trump is not authorized to conduct military strikes in Iran, that this is something that only Congress can approve. And it's called a War Powers Resolution. It's introduced by one Republican, Tom Masty, and one Democrat. It's got 43 members of Congress sign on to it already. But we're trying to get a lot more and asking people to call in. And we know that people in the DC area, we don't have a voting member, but we tell people to call any member of Congress, where you were born, where your friends live, where your family lives, and adopt another one and push them to sign on to this resolution.
Terrific. We are very proud of you. You're representing a lot of us. So yes, if you have the woman from Iran who would like to speak, that would be great.
Yes, her name. Her name is Azita, and she's just talking to a member of Congress right now. But she's almost done, and I will put her on. But I do want to say, while we're waiting, I didn't mention that there is also a War Powers Resolution in the Senate side. And it was introduced by Tim Kaine, and Bernie Sanders has been outspoken. But just like on the House side, they are the minority. So we need to get a lot more people, and they need to hear from us, because AIPAC is calling their Congress people, and there's 100 calls a day coming from AIPAC and 10 coming from us. So if your listeners don't want to have a war with Iran, they have to get on the phones or join us. And today we have a bunch of new people who've never been to Congress before, and they are joining us, going around from office to office. So we invite your listeners to come. We meet at 10 o'clock in the Rayburn cafeteria that's on the House side. Anybody can come, and we will put you to work with an experienced team. So here is Azita, who is Iranian American and goes back and forth to Iran.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. We're thankful you can join us.
Thank you.
Whatever
I'm
you'd
in
like
Congress
to share.
right now, try to promoting the peace and negotiation and diplomacy with Iran, not extending this war to bring more catastrophe and destruction in the region. And we have to listen and get the lesson from our history, which is recent history, is not past, long ago. In Afghanistan, 20 years there, we replaced the Taliban with that much destruction and human life gone, destroyed. And same thing in Iraq, same thing in Libya, same thing in Yemen. We don't want to drag this war to Iran, which can take years and years, at least probably 50 years. We don't want to go that route. That's why I'm here. And of course, Medea said, we need more people. The people have to have a guts and courage to come forward and ask your representative, what is your demand? And this is good for America, for American people. I can see they are suffering, the grocery costs, the insurance costs, the housing costs. So that's why I'm here.
And you have family in Iran?
Yes, of course. All of us have a family in Iran. I have friends, family. I'm worried about them because right now the internet is down because of the inside drone activity. So we usually have a connection through the WhatsApp, and that one is done maybe time to time when the internet coming, the messaging that they're okay. But yes, I have a family and friends over there, and I'm concerned about their life too.
Of course. And I'm sorry, Medea.
Yeah, and Joni, I just wanted to add a couple of things. I mean, one is that the members of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they're so far removed from the reality of what can happen in Iran, but also from what the American people want. And I've been looking at the opinion polls, and there have been a number of them done just in the last week, including after these strikes. And no matter which way you look at it, Democrats, Republicans, young, old, black, white, they all do not want this war. And so you have to say, why are these people in Congress? We go from door to door, and we just met with somebody in Marjorie Taylor Greene's office, and that's one of the few offices that are saying no to this war. And we said, all right, who else in the Republican Party? We had a list, and they went down the list and they said, AIPAC, 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 AIPAC. I mean, this place is bought by AIPAC. And so it just shows you how unrepresented we are. And it's at moments like this in our history where we really need representatives, people who represent us. And yet we find out they represent a foreign government.
And explain to people who may not really understand, who does AIPAC represent?
AIPAC represents Israel. Their policies are Israel's policies. They promote what Israel wants them to promote. And they pretend to be independent, but they're not. They should be registered as a foreign agent. They throw their money around, taking out members of Congress who don't go 100% with Israeli policy, threatening other members of Congress, writing bills and pushing members of Congress to sign on to those bills. I mean, it really is an incredible corruption that has happened in our Congress. And to see it, the only thing that can counteract that is people power. And that's why we're here. And as I'm looking down in the halls of Congress, I see some of our people, and we need more of them. I mean, we should be hundreds of people flooding this Congress and saying, you are not representing your constituents. You're not representing your country. You're representing a foreign country. And, you know, for Republicans, we say, what happened to America first? And for Democrats, we say, what happened to your agenda of helping the people, of having money for people's needs and the climate instead of for constant war? The last war has cost us trillions of dollars, put trillions of dollars into the debt. And so, you know, we have different arguments depending on who we're talking to, but the main argument is the same. This is not good for our national interests. It's not good for Iran. And it's also not good for the people of Israel who are being attacked, whose citizens are being killed. And we know already with 20 months of a genocide that Israel is seen in the eyes of the world as a pariah state. So it is important for Israel that we stop sending them weapons. We stop supporting a government that is genocidal and is waging war throughout the region and becoming more and more hated throughout the region, which builds on anti-Semitism at home. I mean, none of this is good for anybody except a small group of people who profit from war and a small group of people who are behind the Israeli government right now.
Exactly, Medea, and talk a little bit more about that. Why is you could say, the leaders of the ruling class in this capitalist country, why is it that they do support Israel? I don't think it's because they really care about Israel as a country. Why are they so committed to this horrific destruction?
Well, some of them are only in Congress thanks to the money of the Israel lobby. You know, some of them get literally millions of dollars and beat out their opponents with that Israel money. Some of them are afraid. We saw what happened to Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman when the AIPAC decided to take them out. So it's also fear. Some of them are evangelical fanatics that think they have to support Israel because the Bible tells them so, as we saw Ted Cruz say in that very important interview with Tucker Carlson, where the world got to see how a sitting senator says that his policy is based on his interpretation of the Bible. And some of them are supporting the military-industrial complex because they have stocks in that industry. They also have members of the Pentagon embedded in their office. They call them defense fellows that spend a year inside offices of people, Congress people on important committees like appropriations or armed services or foreign relations, who are constantly feeding them this information about the U.S. being threatened by China, threatened by Russia, threatened by Iran. And so there's a number of different reasons.
And Trump, is he still getting the support? Are there Republicans or people even that work with him that are challenging him? And you know, how close do you think we are, Medea, to the possibility, I hate to say it, of a World War III?
Well, Azita just said very close. I keep being naive and thinking very far. I didn't think Trump would authorize strikes into Iran. I was very shocked that he did that. Because he keeps talking about wanting to be a peace president and because his base is so much against this war. I mean, you say, are there other Republicans? The problem is, yes, the Republican Party, the base, the young people, they don't want this war. But the Republicans in Congress are afraid. They're afraid to speak out, not only for all the reasons that I just said, but also because they're afraid to go against Trump. And that is the reality of why there's this huge disconnect between the Republican base and what Republicans are doing right now. And that's why we just have to build up the opposition. We had a meeting yesterday and we talked about the need to get people in other sectors, the environmental community, the Black community, the immigrant rights community, all of these sectors, they have to come out against war, because whatever their issue, it's going to be absolutely destroyed if we are in an all-out war with Iran. We saw trillions of dollars, we saw American lives, we saw all of this wasted in these wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya, and we're going to see that all over again if we don't stop it. And that's why we feel the sense of urgency. And this week, we have a chance to pass a war powers resolution. You know, we don't have this kind of opportunity very much. And that's why we need more people in Congress. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday are going to be very big days in this Congress, and a very important time to send this message to the members of Congress. Don't drag us into this war in Iran. Stop supporting Israel.
And Medea, why is it that we have a important moment now? Why is this a moment? You say we have an opportunity this week. What's different about this week than next week?
Because this week, the War Powers Resolution is supposed to come up for a vote on Friday. And so that's why we need to be flooding their offices, both physically and with calls. Because when the vote comes up, we want them to know if they vote against this War Powers Resolution, they're voting to give the green light to Trump to say, okay, take us into a war that might last another 10, 20 years, that might lead to boots on the ground, that might lead to a nuclear catastrophe. So yes, that's why this week is so important. And even if this doesn't pass, if we have a big showing, it represents pressure on the White House.
So again, Friday is a big day, but you're saying every day leading up to that. I don't know, Medea, were you at the protest in front of the White House on Sunday?
Yes.
And was there a big turnout there? That was a last minute gathering.
You know, there hasn't been a big turnout in a long time, since the beginning of Israel's genocide in Gaza. We haven't had a really big turnout, especially if you look at other countries like the UK in London. Every single month they have huge demonstrations. And there will be a big mobilization coming up this Saturday, and we hope to get large numbers for that.
And will that be too late? You said Friday is the key day.
Well, it's never too late, because Friday is the key date for a vote in Congress. But that's not the end of this. No matter which way that vote goes, we're still going to have to show massive opposition in the streets, in the suites, wherever we can.
Yes, absolutely. And do you know yet when the details of the Saturday rally?
I know it will be at the White House, and I don't know the exact time, but we can get you that information.
On WPFW. Okay, Medea, I know you have to get back. Any final? We're going to be joined in a moment by Larry Ham on the People's Organization for Progress in New Jersey. But before we jump into Larry, anything you want to say before you leave us from now?
Well, I think I have said it, but I'll say it one more time, which is, please call Congress, call the senators from Virginia, call the senators from Maryland, call whoever you can. And the other thing is to call the White House hotline. And that is only open Monday to Thursday, 10 to 3 p.m. But we need to flood that hotline as well. And that is 202-456-1111.
And people can also join you. And repeat again where they can find you this week.
Yeah, that's the most important. They can either look on the website, codepink.org, and go to the events page in DC, and you'll see the information there. Or you can just join us in the house side. It's called the Rayburn Cafeteria. We meet every morning there at 10 o'clock.
Okay, Medea Benjamin, thank you very much for joining us.
And thanks so much, Jenny. Lots of love to you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, now we have the blessing to talk with Larry Ham with the People's Organization for Progress, who can join us for our last few minutes here this morning. And I'm sure Larry has a lot to say. Welcome, Larry. If you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I was muted so you wouldn't hear all that background noise because I'm driving. I just left the graduation of the STEM High School of East Orange. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And I was their keynote speaker. And I did talk about one of the things I mentioned was this war on Iran. U.S. and Israel are bombing Iran, and that this was another Dr. King moment. Every time they launch one of these wars, you know, it brings to memory the stance that Dr. Martin Luther King had to take on the war in Vietnam, and how it was a very unpopular thing for him to do.
Yep.
You know? In fact, a lot of people said that, you know, that probably was the beginning, you know, of the effort to really take him out of here. You know,
especially since he made that speech a year to the day when he was assassinated.
That's right. That's right. So this is another Dr. King moment. And I'm so glad you had Medea on, who gave us the coordinates in terms of what we need to do, who we need to call to voice our opposition. And I agree wholeheartedly. We got to get out in the streets. We have something coming up on Wednesday. As you know, one of our Congress people was with Mayor Ras Baraka when he got arrested at the Delaney Hall ICE detention facility in Newark, New Jersey. And although she wasn't arrested that day, she was in the scuffle that took place when a swarm of ICE cops came out to arrest the mayor. And there were 3 Congress people there, Menendez, Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Congresswoman MacGyver. So they had arrested Baraka and charged him. Then they dropped the charges against him. But now they have indicted, not just made charge, they have indicted Congresswoman Monica MacGyver, and she has to go to federal court on Wednesday. So a number of organizations, Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice, Make the Road New Jersey, People's Organization for Progress, and other organizations are going to be rallying outside the federal court on Wednesday morning in support of Congresswoman Monica MacGyver, who happens, by the way, to be my congressperson. I live in the 10th congressional district of New Jersey. But even if she wasn't my congressperson, I would be out there rallying. And so once we get through that, then we can start planning some type of protest in response to the attack on Iran, because we cannot leave that unanswered. We have to make it clear that Israel's attack was illegal, unprovoked, in violation of the UN Charter, in violation of international law. U.S. attack on Iran was illegal and unprovoked, in violation of the War Powers Act, in violation of our laws here in the United States. So we have to answer. We can't be silent. I mean, do we need another $1 trillion war? I mean, my God, we can't provide for the citizens of our own country adequately. We don't need to. We threw away $6 trillion on the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Are we going to throw away $1 trillion more on a war with Iran? Maybe more than that, because Iran is a country of 90 million people. It's twice the size of Afghanistan, twice the size of Iraq. You know, it will certainly be a protracted war, and we don't need it. We don't need another war.
And for people who don't understand, why is Trump so committed to doing this attack on Iran?
Well, I think one of the reasons is because he's so committed to the apartheid state of Israel, to the rogue. Israel is a rogue state. And you remember, Joni, that movie that came out, what was it called? Wag the Dog? I mean,
yes.
the way it looks to some of us, where we're sitting now, it looks like the tail is wagging the dog. It looks like Israel is determining U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. And Trump is such a sociopath and psychopath. He sees Netanyahu launching these attacks, these unprovoked attacks on Iran. So he wants to get a piece of the action, somehow thinking that might boost his flagging approval ratings at home in the United States. Quite frankly, I don't think so. I don't think that this is going to give Trump the boost. It might give him a short-term bump, but I don't think this is going to give him the boost that he's looking for. There are just too many people in this country at this time who are opposed to a war with Iran.
Absolutely. And Medea just said that the polls show that the majority of people in this country, no matter who they are against this horrific war. So
yes, and she's right. But at the same time, a note of caution, how the media plays a role in perpetuating these wars and how the media can be used to turn public opinion on a dime. So we have to do everything that we can do to make sure that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And let's go back to Congresswoman McIver again. And of course, what we say on WPFW all the time is nobody is free until everybody is free. And although we're talking about somebody in New Jersey, if this goes the wrong way, and I just say, God forbid that she would be in jail for many years, it's going to affect all of us, even if we don't know her. So,
absolutely.
So tell us, and I don't know if you wanted to share that about your daughter.
No.
Okay. So anyway, tell us again, if people want, how do you spell her name? I know I'm getting a lot of requests for
it's MacGyver.
Support.
It's MC capital I VER, MCIVER, MacGyver, and it's La Monica, MacGyver.
And she is I. And she is how old?
I believe Congresswoman is 39 years old.
Absolutely. And again, we cannot allow this. She's facing, if they convict her, quite a bit of time.
She is facing 17 years if they convict her. They have put 2 assault charges on her. 2. Each assault charge with more than 8 years. So she could get up to 17 years if she's convicted. And, this is a dire situation because, Mayor Baraka did not have an assault charge against him, and they dropped the charges against him. But it looks like they want to go through with this kangaroo prosecution to make an example out of Congresswoman MacGyver. This is all about dominance. It's all about force, which is one of the prevalent characteristics of fascism.
Absolutely.
They want to make you bow down, bring you to heel. There can be no dissent, especially if you're in the government, you're supposed to go along with the program. So any of these Congress people, elected officials that step out of line, they're trying to make it hard on them to make them examples, because my goodness, if a congressperson doesn't have any protection, what protection do you and I have as just regular people? People really have to grasp how serious this is.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people do, but I still think that there's still a lot of people that don't quite understand where we are at. you know, and I think what's happening with Congresswoman MacGyver, you know, may help them to understand, you know.
And that's why it's so important, listeners, that those of us in the DMV area need to know about this case. A lot of people do know about Ras Baraka. He went to Howard. A lot of people know him well, but she's not known as much. And so I know that I get a lot of messages to give her some support. But
right.
Larry, tell us a little bit about her for people who don't know her at all.
Well, LaMonica MacGyver is a resident of Newark, New Jersey, lifelong resident of Newark, New Jersey, a product of Newark Public Schools. In fact, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe she was one of Mayor Baraka's former students, because Mayor Baraka was a teacher and a principal. Many people don't know that. They think Mayor Baraka's been like a politician all his life. No, he, for many years, well, first of all, he was an activist, like his father. And then he was a teacher, and then he was a principal at Central High School in Newark, New Jersey. So LaMonica,
and he's also a poet. Maybe you can ask Ras Baraka to do a poem for
yes,
for this congressperson.
And I heard him Thursday night at an event. Maybe we can talk about before we sign off. But so LaMonica MacGyver, lifelong resident of Newark, worked in the private sector, and then became Central Ward Council person. And I believe she served 2 terms as Central Ward Council person. And then she was elected president. She was president of the Newark City Council at the time that the previous Congressman Donald Payne Jr., who succeeded his father, Donald Payne Sr., who was the first Black congressperson in the 350-year history of New Jersey. When Donald Payne Jr. died, LaMonica MacGyver, through special election, succeeded Congressman Donald Payne Jr.
Okay, so
this is her first term. Imagine that. She hasn't even been in office for a year, and she's under indictment for standing up for justice. She went with Mayor Baraka to Delaney Hall because of the outcries of the community and activist immigrants' rights activist organizations about the dire conditions at Delaney Hall. And she was attacked by those same ICE guards, ICE facility officers that attacked Mayor Baraka.
And I understand that in various cities across the country, they're having regular demonstrations in front of the ICE buildings. But
yes, and they are still demonstrating, having even bigger demonstrations now at Delaney Hall.
Wow,
it's not over, and you know, this thing is like deep, because after after they dropped the charges against Mayor Baraka, now the Justice Department has sued Mayor Baraka and 3 other Black mayors in New Jersey. Black Democratic mayors, by the way, in New Jersey, suing them for their quote unquote sanctuary city policies and for interfering with the mission of the ICE people.
Oh man!
And in turn, the mayor himself is suing the Department of Justice.
Wow.
So this is going to go on.
Yes, for a while. And let me just say, for listeners who do not know, Mayor Bowser apparently is wanting to make DC no longer a sanctuary city. District of Columbia, she's fighting to stop that protection, not be a sanctuary city. So we have a lot to do in DC as well. Mikey, do we have to finish at 11:55, or do we have a few more minutes? And I'm asking our wonderful engineer if we have a little more time. Okay, so okay, Larry, tell us real briefly about what you wanted to share. I think it was about Baltimore.
Yes. Well, it wasn't about Baltimore, but I'll say quickly, I was in Baltimore on Friday. I was at the State of the People assembly that took place in Baltimore, which was the conclusion of the nationwide State of the People tour. And I was there in Baltimore at Empowerment Temple with activists like Tamika Mallory and Pastor Jamal Bryant, who was one of the people leading up the Target boycott. But the thing I wanted to mention was that on Thursday night, we have something in New Jersey called the New Jersey Reparations Council, which was created by the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. And the New Jersey Reparations Council released its report titled The Nowness of Reparations. And Joni, I really urge you to get this report and go over that report, and maybe sometime in the not too distant future, give some show time to the discussion of this report that has been published on the impact of slavery and recommendations for reparations to African Americans who were the descendants of those who were enslaved in New Jersey. I think it's a very good report. I think it's something we can use for the future. So we had this release at New Jersey Performing Arts Center. It was packed, a packed crowd, and Mayor Baraka read one of his poems on reparations. He read a poem on reparations at the release of the New Jersey Reparations Council report.
Wow, and we'll have to be sure to share that to some of our other programmers, including Nkechi Taif. I want to make sure we hear this song. Last song coming up, and that is a special version of War by Sinead O'Connor. Many know Bob Marley, but it's time to be listening to this song. Thank you, Larry, and let's hear. Thank you, thank you, Mikey, and thank you, listeners. We got to organize to stop this war.